Most people live their entire lives trapped in a silent cage. A cage made not of iron but of illusions. Illusions about money, success, opportunity, power, and luck. Illusions that keep them broke, defeated, and obedient to a system designed to use their energy while rewarding them with scraps. Machiavelli would tell you that poverty is almost never an accident. It is the predictable result of misunderstanding how power works. And money, whether you like it or not, is one of the purest forms of power. You are broke because someone taught you to behave in ways that keep you weak. Someone conditioned you to seek comfort instead of strategy, hope instead of leverage, approval instead of dominance. Someone taught you to apologize for wanting more, to feel guilty for ambition, to aim small and fear the consequences of thinking bigger. Machiavelli believed that every man must understand one truth: if you do not study the game, you will be used by those who do. And the modern world has perfected this game. It convinces you that working harder is enough, that being loyal is enough, that dreaming is enough. But this is not how power operates. The world rewards strategy, not sweat. It rewards leverage, not loyalty. It rewards precision, not hope. And until you start thinking like a strategist, your life will remain ruled by forces stronger than you. Being broke is not just about lacking money. It is about lacking control. A man with no financial power becomes a man who tiptoes through life, afraid to say what he thinks, afraid to walk away from disrespect, afraid to demand better, afraid to be himself. Broke men are forced into silence. Rich men speak freely because they can afford to. Machiavelli understood that whoever controls your survival controls your obedience. If your boss feeds you, he owns your time. If your bank owns your house, it owns your fear. If your habits control your income, they control your destiny. This is why the first step to escaping poverty is psychological, not financial. You must stop thinking like a servant and begin thinking like a player. A player recognizes that life is a negotiation. Every choice has a cost. Every opportunity has a doorway. Every advantage must be seized before someone else takes it. Most people stay broke because they hesitate. They wait for the right time, the perfect idea, but the ideal conditions. But power does not wait. Money does not wait. Ambition does not wait. Machiavelli would tell you that fortune favors the bold, but it punishes the unprepared. If you want to stop being broke, you cannot live on desires alone. You must cultivate capability. Not the capability the system teaches you, but the capability that turns a man into a force. You need the capability to create value out of thin air, to persuade people, to negotiate, to sell, to adapt, to turn pressure into opportunity, not fear. A broke man relies on others to save him. A Machiavellian man builds himself into someone who cannot be ignored. When you study the wealthy, you will notice one pattern. They do not trade time for money. They trade solutions for money. They do not look for jobs. They look for leverage points. They do not chase approval. They chase momentum. This is why most people remain stuck. They keep thinking like workers instead of thinkers, like followers instead of strategists. To finally stop being broke, you must become ruthless with your habits, ruthless with your excuses, ruthless with your wasted hours. The poverty mindset is fueled by two things: distraction and emotional reactions. Most people cannot stay focused for a single week. They cannot sacrifice entertainment. They cannot handle boredom. They cannot handle judgment. And because of that, they stay trapped in the same loop. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must learn to act against mercy, against faith, against humanity, and against religion if he wants to preserve his state. This is not a call to be evil, but a call to be decisive. You cannot rise while clinging to the beliefs that keep you small. You cannot create a new life while worshipping the comfort of the old one. You cannot transform your financial destiny until you are willing to betray the identity that kept you broke. The world is divided into two types of people: those who create opportunities and those who wait for them. Those who understand power and those who fear it, those who build systems and those who work inside them. You must decide which one you want to be. To escape lack, you must stop living like a spectator and start living like an architect. Design your skills deliberately. Design your income deliberately. Design your influence deliberately. Most people drift into poverty because they drift through life. You cannot drift your way into success. You plan for it. You strategize, you maneuver. You move with intention. Machiavelli teaches that men must learn to be both fox and lion. The fox sees the traps. The lion scares away the wolves. If you are only a fox, you will see opportunities but never act. If you are only a lion, you will act without thinking and destroy your own path. To stop being broke, you must develop both cunning and courage. Cunning helps you read people, markets, timing, and incentives. Courage helps you take the calculated risks necessary to break the cycle of scarcity. Every wealthy man you admire mastered both. They saw the trap of the ordinary life and had the courage to defy it. Being broke is often a symptom of blind obedience. You followed the rules that society told you to follow. You believed the promises of stability, safety, and fairness. But Machiavelli exposes the truth. The world is not fair. The world is not equal. The world belongs to those who understand how it works beneath the surface. If you want financial power, you must operate beneath the surface too. You must study what others ignore. You must practice what others fear. You must continue when others stop. You must focus when others entertain themselves. You must build relentlessly. There will be people who call you selfish, obsessive, greedy, or unrealistic. They will do this because your rise threatens the story they tell themselves about why they never improved. Ignore them. Machiavelli warns that if you wish to transform your position in life, you will face resistance. Not because you are wrong, but because your ambition exposes their weakness. The moment you commit to no longer being broke, you will lose the comfort of excuses. You will lose the satisfaction of blaming circumstances. You will lose the identity that allowed you to stay where you are. But you will gain something far more powerful: momentum, clarity, autonomy, self-respect. Stopping the cycle of being broke is not about becoming rich overnight. It is about becoming a man who cannot be broken. A man whose income is just a reflection of his discipline, his strategy, his focus, and his willingness to face the world with both intellect and force. Machiavelli would tell you that fortune is a wild river. If you do not build strong banks to control it, it will destroy you. But if you discipline your mind, your habits, your skills, and your courage, that same river will carry you to places you never believed you could reach. The question is not whether you can stop being broke. The question is whether you are willing to become the kind of man who refuses to remain that way. A man who thinks strategically, a man who acts decisively, a man who creates his own opportunities, a man who no longer waits for permission, a man who understands fully and deeply that poverty is not a destiny, it is a mindset, and once that mindset dies, the world becomes a battlefield where you finally fight to win. The game is already being played. You can remain a piece, or you can become the player. And once you choose to become the player, you will never fear being broke again. There comes a moment in every man's life when he realizes that poverty is not just about money, it is about patterns. Patterns that repeat themselves every month, every year, every decade. Patterns that keep him in the same place while others move forward. Machiavelli would say that a man who does not understand the patterns that govern his life is like a soldier walking into battle blindfolded, easily defeated, easily manipulated, easily dominated. The truth no one wants to admit is that most people are not stuck because of the world. They are stuck because of themselves, because they repeat the same weak choices, hoping for strong results, because they cling to the familiar even when the familiar is destroying them, because they fear the unknown more than they fear failure. and because they secretly believe they are not meant for more. Breaking free from being broke requires breaking the psychological chains that have kept you small. Machiavelli taught that a ruler must constantly reinvent himself, discarding the old skin that no longer serves him. Yet most men cling to the old identity that keeps them broke, the identity of a man who reacts instead of plans, who hopes instead of strategizes, who waits instead of creates. If you want to escape financial weakness, you must first escape mental weakness. You must become the kind of man who wakes up with intention instead of drifting. The kind of man who speaks with direction instead of apology. The kind of man who sees opportunities where others see obstacles. The kind of man who understands that fortune does not reward the passive, it rewards the decisive. Every day you remain broke, you are paying a hidden cost. The cost of what you could have been. The cost of the life you could be living. The cost of the dreams you've buried. The cost of your potential being slowly drained by routine, distraction, and the illusion of safety. Machiavelli would tell you that safety is the enemy of greatness. A man who prioritizes safety will always serve a man who prioritizes power. A man who fears loss more than he desires growth will always remain at the bottom of the hierarchy. A man who depends on others for stability will always be forced to compromise his voice, his dignity, and his ambitions. You cannot master money if you cannot master discomfort. Broke men run from discomfort. Strategic men use discomfort as fuel. When you cut distractions, your mind rebels. When you reject instant pleasure, your emotions protest. When you demand discipline from yourself, your old habits fight back. This is why most men never escape the cycle. They think the battle is external, but the true war is internal. To stop being broke, you must wage war against the weaker version of yourself. The version that wakes up late. The version that seeks validation. The version that negotiates with excuses. The version that escapes responsibility by blaming circumstances. Machiavelli wrote that a wise ruler must be prepared to act against kindness when kindness threatens his survival. Your kindness to your weaker habits is the very reason you stay broke. You are too kind to your laziness, too merciful to your fear, too gentle with your procrastination. You cannot negotiate with the part of you that keeps you small. You must overthrow it. The world opens its doors to the men who build value. Yet most people spend their energy complaining instead of learning, consuming instead of producing, envying instead of improving. A man who masters one valuable skill becomes a man the world cannot ignore. A man who masters two becomes dangerous. A man who masters three becomes unstoppable. To escape poverty, don't chase money. Chase your evolution. The money will follow the man you become. Machiavelli understood the power of perception. A ruler who appears capable earns trust. A ruler who appears strong earns loyalty. A ruler who appears strategic earns influence. Your life works the same way. People invest in the image you project. If you appear unfocused, no one will trust your ambition. If you appear uncertain, no one will trust your potential. If you appear weak, no one will trust your leadership. To stop being broke, you must project clarity, purpose, and confidence even before you fully possess them. You must behave as if you are building an empire long before the empire exists. This is not deception, it is alignment. Your identity must rise before your circumstances do. The modern world is full of men who want results without sacrifice. They want wealth without strategy, success without discipline, respect without transformation. But Machiavelli teaches that nothing substantial can be achieved without paying the price. The greater the ambition, the greater the cost. You must replace habits that drain you with habits that build you. Replace doubt with deliberate action. Replace procrastination with structured routines. Replace complaining with ruthless self-evaluation. Replace emotional reactions with strategic responses. Money is attracted to men who build momentum. And momentum is built by consistency, not perfection, not luck, not inspiration, but discipline. Discipline is the foundation of all power, and without it, every dream collapses. You must stop living like a man hoping for rescue. No one is coming to save you. No one is coming to hand you a better life. No one is coming to pull you out of poverty. This is not tragedy. This is liberation. Because once you accept that you are your only savior, you become unstoppable. Machiavelli would say that a man becomes powerful the moment he stops depending on the goodwill of others and begins depending on his own capacity. When you rely on your own strategy, you cannot be controlled. When you rely on your own skills, you cannot be discarded. When you rely on your own ambition, you cannot be replaced. Breaking the cycle of being broke is not a financial journey. It is a psychological revolution. You become a man who refuses to be exploited, a man who refuses to accept limitations, a man who refuses to let circumstances dictate his worth, a man who builds himself so thoroughly that the world has no choice but to recognize his value. The moment you adopt this mindset, everything changes. Your spending changes, your time changes, your energy changes, your relationships change, your trajectory changes, and slowly, almost silently, your entire life shifts from scarcity to strategy, from weakness to leverage, from surviving to dominating. This is the Machiavellian reality. Power is not given, power is taken. Wealth is not stumbled upon, wealth is constructed. Success is not fate. Success is engineered by the man who refuses to remain ordinary. And once you become that man, you will never fear being broke again.